Been muted for some time now. Been talking, but nobody's been listening because I've been muted. Guys, welcome into episode 29 to Cover Your Balls. I'm Jordan McKelley. That's Mitchell Balla. This whole time I've been talking, you haven't been listening because you've been on mute. Welcome to episode 29 to Cover Your Balls. A lot to get into. Rumor on the street is one of my favorite athletes, Tiger Woods. Has some leg injuries, so prayers out to Tiger Woods and his family right now. A lot to get into today. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. we go live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitter. And at 4 p.m. we do something every week, Mitch. It is our top 4 at 4. And our top 4 at 4 today is our top 4 hype songs. Mitch, what are your top 4 hype songs?
This was a tough one. And, when we established this category, Jordan, I had to have you clarify, what are we talking about? We talk about like party hype songs, like PR hype songs in the gym, but no, we just said hype songs like you're listening to get ready for an interview or something. Just, get pumped up for something. So coming in at number 4 is a Nuketown by Ski Mask, Slump God, and Juice WRLD. It's a little bit of a screamo, man, and I don't like music like that, but this song, it gets me going, it gets me wound up, and it gets me hyped. At number 3 is Alpha Omega by Machine Gun Kelly. That one gets me going. Just makes you feel real good. Makes you feel like you're the alpha,
the
Omega.
It makes you feel real good.
Yeah. It's in the title right there. Number 2, Jordan, is a classic, whether it's to get you pumped up or, you got a group of guys that are drinking or something. You just need a real good sing-along. Forever. It was debuted in that LeBron James movie a while ago by Drake, Eminem, Kanye West, and Kid Cudi.
It's a really good song.
It's a banger. And at number 1 for me personally, Jordan, is Emotionally Scarred by Lil Baby. I love that song. Gets me pumped up. Was in my top 10 for most listened to song in 2020. So had to include it as my top hype song.
I feel like this makes me drastically older because 3 out of those 4 songs I have never listened to at all. I've actually never heard of them. So there's that. I like your top 4 hype songs. For you guys out there in the ball pit, I don't always have the same 4 top hype songs. It just depends what mood I'm in, what time of the day it is. It really depends on the season. Here's my top 4 right now. Right now. Number 4, I got I Am Defiant by The Seeds. You probably haven't heard of it. It's a great song. Lyrics speak to me. At number 3, I have Hot Shower by Chance the Rapper. If you haven't listened to Chance the Rapper and seen the Hot Shower music video, then I don't know what you're doing. At number 2, I have Right Above It by Lil Wayne. One of my favorite overall songs, period. It's the theme song to Ballers 2 for those of you who are huge HBO rock fans. Number 1, Born for This by Andy Grammer. All of Andy Grammer's songs, Mitch, every time I listen to them, I feel a little bit better about myself, a little bit better about life. Love that song. Born for This was the song that I played a ton of times when I went on that disgustingly long hike/run last year, Mitch, and it got me through it. That's my top 4 at 4.
Hey, listen, I can't disagree with your top 4 or 4 if that's what gets you through things, and that's what you got to do.
Do the best I can, Mitch.
Hey, that's all you can ever do. Just do your best. Give your best.
That's it.
Did that motivate you enough for right now?
Not a ton. Not a ton.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll be better Thursday.
It's all right. Guys, if you haven't noticed, it's Shark Day. I have a big-ass shark behind me. I have a shark right here with a bunch of balls. We are calling you guys now, our listeners, the ball pit. So when we say ball pit, that's who we're referring to. We're referring to you guys. And we're going to refer to you guys a ton today and hopefully get into a lot of questions. Mitch, the first thing we're going to get into, there was a video over the weekend that went viral. There was a wide receiver for OU that in the video, to me, it looked like he was, well, here, I won't even get into that yet. We won't even talk about what it looked like. Anywho, this wide receiver / placeholder for Oklahoma, Spencer Jones, who played in every game this season for Oklahoma, got his ass beat in a bathroom at 10:08 on a Friday night. It was a early night for him because he was put to sleep involuntarily. Do you believe that he was actually breaking up that fight, Mitch, or do you think he was instigating it with the MMA guys who eventually whooped their ass, who were my size, by the way? They were like 5'8" or 5'9". They were not big guys.
Oh, no, he instigated that 100%. I don't buy what he said for a second. Dude just embarrassed that he got his ass beat and he is viral now. And not to mention, first off, it doesn't matter the size of the person in the fight. It's about what's the size on the inside. And he just, he went for a guy that was smaller than him. And you saw what happens. And how is he supposed to know the guy who was trained in MMA, kicked his ass? And by the way, shout out to his buddy. I mean, they were both just kicking ass, taking names. But honestly, I think the bigger story here is the guys that were taking, a piss. They weren't even phased. The one guy just stepped over him after he was done at the urinal, stepped over him and walked out like it was nothing was going on. I mean, I would have been shook. I don't even know if I could have finished peeing. But listen, Spencer Jones, buddy, you might need to leave OU. You might need to just not play football anymore because you are going to get so much shit.
I think he graduated, Mitch. So I think you're all right. I think he was a redshirt senior. So I think this was it. I think.
All right. Well, now he's going to get it from his future employees or future coworkers, employers. But just a tough look for you, Spencer. Yeah. I mean, listen, if I was your younger brother or older brother and I saw you at Thanksgiving, every time I would just remind you that you got your ass beaten. It's all over the internet.
And that's what I would do. For those of you who haven't watched the video yet, it's a minute and 30 long. It's on Twitter. It's hilarious because you can watch and listen to the whole fight. In the background commentary, it's not quite as good as Sam Summers on Thursdays on Cover Your Balls, but it's pretty good. Yeah, Mitch, I definitely think he instigated that fight. Bigger people always think that they can push people around, and sometimes what was that fight we talked about a couple weeks ago? What did I say? David and Goliath, but who did I call David?
Oh my gosh, who did you call?
I don't know. It wasn't good. Anywho, Spencer, I almost said Casey Jones. He's from Ninja Turtles. Spencer Jones just needs to understand that, it's not the size about the guy. You know what I mean? I'm 5'9". Spencer Jones might have a really tough time with me, Mitch. Mitch, you might have a tough time with me. I mean, come on now. So, hey, nothing back to that. What I was doing, Jordan, is I was actually tweeting out the video from our Twitter account. Oh. So listeners and viewers, if they haven't seen it yet, can go check it out. It's on our Twitter page, or they can just put in hashtag the ball pit, because I tagged it in our hashtag as well. So go take a look and really get a feel for what Spencer Jones did, and then what it would look like, if Jordan was here right now and said something outlandish about how bad Drew Brees is, because he would be Spencer Jones and I would be the other guy. Mitch, next time we get together, we'll wrestle. We can put it on tape. Mitch, one thing that's rocking the football world right now is what's going to happen with Big Ben. Big Ben has had a long, successful career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He's on his last year of a contract that was totaling $68 million. In the last year of his contract is $41.25 million. Wow. I think this is the first time ever, Mitch, that Big Ben's contract is bigger than Big Ben himself. Do you believe the Steelers should move on from Big Ben, or do you think that they should stay pat and let him play out his last year in Pittsburgh?
Oh, they should definitely let him stay and let him play out, man. He looked fantastic. What are you talking about? He looked like looked like a top 5 quarterback. Tell me about it. As a Browns fan, I want him to stay here for a long time. I hope he never goes anywhere. He passed for 500 yards in the playoff loss to the Browns. So what do you mean? Is he bad? No, listen, as a Browns fan, I hope he stays there because it's finally the end. But we saw last week, the general manager said, as of today, Ben Roethlisberger was a Pittsburgh Steeler. That's not very reassuring for the future. Jordan, I don't know how they keep him around. I don't know what they do, though. Do you really force a quarterback that owns a lot of your records, has won you 2 Super Bowls? Do you force him out? I mean, you can ask him to take a pay cut, but if I'm Big Ben, are you going to take a pay cut? I mean, I don't know. I want $40-some million if I signed up for it. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think Big Ben's definitely wants his money. I don't think he's going to get his money, though. I think that's the problem. It's a really weird situation where the Steelers have to be. They've done everything right. First of all, Ben Roethlisberger, they have a great relationship with him. They're not going to throw their relationship with Ben Roethlisberger over this. That's why this is taking so long to figure out and to decide. He's been they don't want the Steelers organization does not want Ben Roethlisberger's career to end like Brett Favre's, perhaps. They want it to be consistent with the values that their organization's held for a long time. Let's be honest. I'm a Browns fan. I hate Pittsburgh. But their organization is run incredibly. And I expect them to do something that is not surprising. I don't expect them to move on from Big Ben. I expect him to stay there. I don't know if he'll be much better than he was last year. For years now, rumor has it that he doesn't like film. If you're a quarterback and you don't like film, you're not going to be very successful in the National Football League. Football is about film. It's about watching film. It's about figuring out what you don't do well and figuring out how to do that well. And at this stage in his career, with all these declining physical attributes, he can't go anywhere else.
No.
So the Steelers are really at a crossroads where do they cut Ben Roethlisberger, which, honest to God, to me, doesn't sound like a bad option, or do you let him play out that last year and not just restructure his contract, but maybe have him give some of the money back? I don't know if that's possible. I don't want to restructure contracts. I don't want that money. If you're going to keep Ben, I don't want that to hurt. If I'm a Steelers guy, I don't want that to hurt us later down the road. I think they keep Big Ben. Will they keep Big Ben? I think so. But we'll find out, Mitch.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
If they keep him, they have so many other free agents. Like, let's just put it this way. Juju Smith-Schuster. Whether you think he's a number one wide receiver or not, if Ben stays, there's zero chance they bring him back. Then you're talking about, do they have to cut someone like Joe Hayden, Stephon Tuitt, James Conner, who is another free agent? There's a lot of guys they're going to lose if they bring Big Ben back. And even if they don't, they still might not be able to re-sign some of these guys, and they might have to part their ways. It's just right now the Steelers are in an unfamiliar position for the first time in the last 17 years since he's been drafted by them in 2004.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they know what to do because they haven't been in this position before.
Yeah. I mean, the last quarterback I can remember in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey that was not like Michael Vick in our era was Kendall Stewart and I almost said Greg Maddux. But the quarterback's name for the Pittsburgh Steelers, his last name is Maddox. Is it Tom Matt? I can't think of his first name. Those are the last two Steelers quarterbacks I can remember outside of Big Ben. They have, like you said, they haven't had a lot of quarterbacks. Now, I saw Tammy come in the comments. Do you risk the embarrassment of a lengthy stat-filled career with the real possibility of being benched during season? That would be interesting, that if Big Ben, say he does come back with Pittsburgh next year, Mitch, and he's playing just horrendously. Like, do you bench him? Like, they're in a real pickle, real veggie tail situation here, and they got to figure it out because they're in a division where they have the worst quarterback of all four teams. There's only four teams in your division. Okay, if this was like a FIFA group match, right? This team wouldn't get a point, all right? Like, they're in a really tough spot. Cincinnati's on the rise. Tommy Maddox. I thought it was Tommy Maddox. Thanks, Mitch, in the comment section for that. Mitch, let's move on. There's a ton of stuff today. We were talking earlier when we tried to figure out the thumbnail or our cover for this episode, like what were we going to make it? Because there was a lot of different things to talk about. And one of those things that me and you were talking about off air the other day was, what do we make of Frank Reich going out and getting Carson Wentz? What do we really make out of it? Now, think of it from this direction, Mitch. Frank Reich was in Philadelphia with Doug Peterson. He knows Doug Peterson really well, and guess who else he knows really well? Carson Wentz. So he knows both of these gentlemen. I feel like with Frank Reich going out and getting Carson Wentz, I feel like what he's saying is, I'm siding with Carson Wentz. I feel like he believes that Doug Peterson didn't do enough or do what he should have done in Philly to really get Carson Wentz in a position to be successful. I think this trade actually says more about, honestly, Doug Peterson than it does Carson Wentz. And I think what else is funny about this is, Mitch, have you ever ordered something online and got something completely opposite of what you ordered?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's what's going to happen to the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts feel like they ordered a franchise quarterback, and what they're going to figure out is they got an Amazon Basics charger that may last them 2 weeks tops. Be careful with the cord. It's fragile. Mitch, what do you think of this? Do you think I'm reading too far into this?
I don't know if you're reading too far into it, but I think you bring up a Wonderful point. And the fact that, is Frank Reich siding with Carson Wentz? And I'll put it this way. Doug Peterson failed miserably. The Eagles won a
Word.
Super Bowl, and Carson Wentz looked like a franchise quarterback the year they won the Super Bowl before he tore his ACL in that game in the Coliseum.
Yes.
What they were 13-2, I think. I think they were 13-2 when he tore his ACL. And Carson Wentz got that big extension then. Now, I think two things come into that. I think he's played so poorly because of what's around him and the injuries. I mean, you know how it can be as an athlete. Once you get an injury, you're just never the same mentally. And that plays a factor. And not to mention, they had the most different starting lineups on the offensive line this year. But, Jordan, it's deeper than that. Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz never got along. How do I know that? They didn't talk the last X number amount of weeks, whether you say it's 6, 7, or 8 weeks. They didn't talk.
That's a problem.
That is a huge problem when your quarterback is your most important player on the field in offense, and your head coach, who's supposed to be offensive minded, just decides not to talk to your quarterback. So listen, I don't know if you're diving too deep into it with saying that, the Colts think they're trading for this and instead they might be getting this, because I still think there's a small chance that Carson Wentz can, get back to a glimpse of what he was. I'm not saying he will be what he was that year where he was the front runner for MVP before injury, but I'm not going to sit here and expect to see that Carson Wentz we saw last year, because the Colts team as a whole is already in place. They have a very good defense. They have a solid offensive line. They got a young running back, and their wide receivers, you could say, are average or maybe below average, with T.Y. Hilton, who didn't have a great year. They got Mo Alley Cox, Jack Doyle, Paris Campbell there from Ohio State. I know I'm forgetting somebody else, but that's not here.
Well, there's a Malone guy you're missing from Canton. Ashton Dolan,
yep.
Yeah, who's a hell of an athlete. Of an athlete.
So he's going into a better spot right now, but he's going into a place where the coach knows how to coach him and get the most out of him, which we've seen. Doug Peterson, I think you saw by him getting fired, and you saw it by him coaching the last 2 seasons, is not an NFL head coach. Sure, he won a Super Bowl, but there's a common factor, and it was once they lost Frank Reich, that team plummeted. Once they lost Frank Reich and Big Dick Nick, that team plummeted. If I'm Frank Reich, I'd side with Carson Wentz too. That's how I'd put it.
Yeah, an interesting tidbit, Mitch. While I was thinking about this, is there a possibility, and just think about this for a second, I know Phillip Rivers is not going back to Indianapolis, but me and you said this other day that Phillip Rivers is an above NFL quarterback right now. They won 11 games this year. You don't do that without a quarterback that is very solid. What if the Steelers do and I know we're going back, but if the Steelers do let Big Ben go, is Hail Mary chance, you think the Steelers would go after Phillip Rivers? Maybe 1-year contract, just say, hey, let's do this, Phillip.
I don't. No?
I
think the Steelers, like I said, are in such an awkward spot for the first time that I think they realize that they almost have to just take a gap year right now. That defense they have is great. Devin Bush is coming back from injury. Bud Dupree is a free agent, but you could maybe swing him on a cheaper deal coming off injury. That defense is going to be legit, Jordan. We've talked about it before. That defense could honestly win them, 7-8 games alone if you have a quarterback who doesn't lose you a game. I don't think they'd get Phillip Rivers or go after him. I think they would run it back. Apparently the front office loves Mason Rudolph, which please keep him there too. Him or Ben Roethlisberger, go ahead. Don't forget they just signed Dwayne Haskins. Now I know how ugly it was for him in Washington, but there's still, I think his best football is still ahead of him as well. But to answer your question, no, I think Phillip Rivers is most focused on maybe pumping out some more kids with his wife and coaching the high school football team that he has already been named the head coach of in Alabama.
I saw Brand. I like how you say you bring up Haskins, and so does Brandon in the chat here for those listening online. Guys, Haskins is not worth more than my VCR in my basement right now. He's not worth more than that. He just got kicked off a team almost immediately. Alarming a little bit. Like, does that not smell like Antonio Callaway? Like Josh Gordon? Doesn't that just smell bad to you? Like, yeah,
but like look at the difference.
He
in
was
organization.
at a strip club in the middle of a pandemic, Mitch. He was his coach had cancer, battling cancer, and he was bringing into the facility COVID-19. Okay, not the guy I want on my team. I cannot believe you guys brought him up.
But I mean,
Shame on
they
you.
also are. He was in an organization where the owner apparently has been paying cheerleaders to take off their clothes and sexual harassment.
Well, that
now he
doesn't
goes
mean
to
you get to do shitty stuff. Well, hey, that guy over there is taking
No, but
pictures
we
of
both
kids.
know
I can do
after-
whatever. Well, come on.
We know in 1 year after we hire
Yeah.
Kevin Stefanski to get a new general manager, it works from the top down. There is no stability in Washington. Pittsburgh, we both agree, is a very well-run organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think Washington has some stability now, though. I don't think that they're the same organization. Their coach had cancer. They still won their division. Granted, it was with 7 games. Granted, it was in the biggest dumpster fire with Oscar the Grouch there ever was. But they still did win their division. The guy who started for them at the end of the season almost had his leg cut off. Game of Thrones style last year. I'd say their organization's in a much better place right now. You don't think so?
Nope, not until Dan Snyder's gone.
Well,
there's a new allegation almost every week.
Well, and this brings up a good point. I just saw the other day that Jeff Bezos, former CEO of Amazon, he still is Amazon. He's thinking about buying the Washington football team. I saw that. I don't know what that was. I didn't think Dan Snyder was interested in selling the team. But it looks like Dan Snyder could actually get pushed out from maybe some rumors that I've been hearing.
Yeah, it seems like the NFL is even, there's rumors that the NFL owners could push him out as well. But let's be honest, your team might not be for sale, but when the richest man in the world says he wants to buy your team, I don't think there's a price he can't match. So, enough money he could pay you to maybe make the other allegations hush hush, as we know how a lot of things work in the world, as messed up as they are. No, I did see that Jeff Bezos is interested in doing that. Maybe that's why he's no longer the CEO, although we still agree he is Amazon. Still has money in a lot of other places. But hey, I just think that I'm not saying what Dwayne Haskins did was right, because it wasn't. I mean, listen, man, I wanted to see some boobs, but there's other alternatives to that. But I just think there's a lot of issues in there to begin with. And I think his best football is still ahead of him if he gets a shot and has his head on right in Pittsburgh, which is actually scary as a Browns fan.
All right. Fair. Mitch, one of the last things we're going to get into football-wise before we hop into basketball, a lot of other balls to get into, really. Who flinches first, Mitch? Is it Deshaun Watson or is it Nick Caserio in the Houston front office? Do they trade him or not?
It's Deshaun Watson. He will flinch first. He will flinch first for these 2 reasons. He hasn't even sat down and met with anybody face to face. A bitch, if you ask. That's a bitch move. How are you about to just? JJ Watt at least, scheduled a meeting, went in there and said, "Hey guys, can we move past this and let me go?" And they said, "Sure." Deshaun Watson hasn't even done that.
No.
And I did the math: $50,000 fine for every time he doesn't show up, Jordan. And alone, just through training camp, that equates to about $2,500,000. Now, I don't care how much money you're making.
That's absurd.
That's an absurd amount of money. And that doesn't even count games. Okay. So eventually he's going to show up because he's going to lose all his money in a year if he doesn't show up. I don't know who he thinks he is. Like we said, the NBA, the players run the league. We've seen it before, and it's been for X amount of years now. This is kind of the first time we've seen this happen in a while since Eli Manning did it. When he was drafted by the Chargers and forced his way to the Giants. But Jordan, the Texans are showing you they're not going to trade him because of what they're demanding in a trade for Deshaun Watson. No team has even come close to an offer that gives them what they want, apparently. So ultimately, until the Texans are absolutely blown away, I think Deshaun Watson will flinch first, and he'll be the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans next year.
Yeah, when I was looking through the itinerary for the show with everything, I was really trying to find things that I could disagree with you on. This isn't one of them at all. He's definitely going to flinch first for all the reasons you said, Mitch, and more. He hasn't even really addressed the situation at all. So really, it's Houston. He's not even really in his own situation, if it may be. It's a really weird scenario. Not sure who's giving him advice. Like you said, this is not the NBA. It's just a different dynamic. It's just a very different dynamic. It's ever since Jordan got that shoe deal, the NBA's been different. The star kind of runs the game. It's never going to be like that in the NFL ever. I don't know at this point who really wants Deshaun Watson. He's not really willing to come to the table to talk. So do you want that guy on your team? Like if you're out there and, maybe the New York Jets want him if they're the New York Jets, because even with Deshaun Watson's flaws, he'll help them. But if you're a team out there like San Francisco, like I don't know if I touch him anymore. I don't know if this is the guy I want to work with. If you're not willing to show up to work and just willing to talk it out. Like you said, J.J. Watt showed up. Like there was nothing else to talk about. Like our relationship needs to end. Let's let it end with some grace, right? Mm-hmm. And he did, and he got out of it. He's not going to do that. If I'm another organization looking at that, I don't want, like, that guy's supposed to be the leader on my team. Like, that's not what I want at all. So I don't know what's going to happen to Deshaun Watson, but this isn't, wherever he goes, it's going to hurt. And I think it could actually be considerably worse elsewhere than Houston. And I don't think because anybody said that yet, except you right now.
Look at what the Texans are demanding for Deshaun Watson. So if a team gives in and gives them, 3 or 4 first rounders and 2 of your top 5 players, what's the difference, Jordan, of the setting in Houston versus what he would go to then? Apparently the 3-team frontrunner right now are the Jets, a dumpster fire, the Dolphins, who are set up to succeed, but if you give away your next 3 picks and Tua Tagovailoa and things that could hinder your future, and not to mention his contract that you'd bring on. And the other one's Carolina, where apparently they're demanding Christian McCaffrey, 2 to 3 first-round draft picks, Teddy Bridgewater. Like, what is the difference there of what you want out of to where you would go? I mean, yeah, you could say Carolina might be better. Yeah, Miami would be better, but especially New York. Why is this man willing to waive his no-trade clause for the New York Jets?
I mean, clearly, he wants to be part of the limelight. I mean, that's what New York is. You want to go there for connections. You want to go there for things outside of football that you may want to dabble in your personal life. I don't know if the Jets are worse or better than Houston, but it's bad. All I know is Jamal Adams forced his way out of there. So you're going from one place where 2 players, within a year, think about what has happened to Houston. Let's just stop and think about this. This is just their football team. In a fucking year, they've lost DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson, and J.J. Watt. If I'm a Houston fan, I'm picking a different team. This is the worst thing ever. This is it's definitely worse than anything I've experienced as a Cleveland fan. Holy shit. They just lost James Harden. They've lost everybody. This is the great Houston exodus. We'll talk about this in 80 years. Maybe not us. We might not be alive, but someone's going to talk about this in 80 years, man.
They're going to have to. Not only Harden, Westbrook, Chris Paul was there, 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. You got guys on the baseball team that are leaving, like George Springer goes to Toronto. The city of Houston is losing stars left and right off of all 3 major sports teams. It's crazy.
Bro, the great exodus. This is it. They're gone. Everybody's gone. Now we just need to get the Astros out. That's the next thing. I know, Mitch. We were going to get into top tier QBs, but that conversation is going to take a while. What I want to get into, Mitch, is one of my favorite segments of this show. You may have heard about it. You may have been here when we've had it before. It's Mitch's Afternoon Headlines.
Well, guys, let's just start with the breaking news we addressed at the beginning of the show, where it was Tiger Woods was injured in a single car accident in California this morning around 7 a.m. Fire crews had to use the jaws of life to get him out of the vehicle. He is in surgery right now for multiple injuries sustained to his legs. Obviously, he is a very big figure for a lot of people. Broke some barriers when it came to golf. One of the best golfers we've ever seen before he got other injuries. So hopefully it's not the end of Tiger Woods, but first things first, hopefully he makes it out of surgery and is on the road to recovery sooner rather than later, Jordan.
No doubt.
So let's move on now.
Where are we moving?
I don't know if you saw Daft Punk. They split after nearly 3 decades of music.
I did see that. Just not necessarily surprised or not. Kind of sad, just because some of their there's a couple songs that they have together that are just some of my favorite songs I've ever listened to. So sad day, but man, think about that. Almost 3 decades of continued success. Mm-hmm. What would that be in like a sports realm? Like, what would that be? That would be if LeBron did this for 12 more years. It's not the same, but I want to make it the same.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Well, although they broke up, Bobby Shmurda was released from prison yesterday, Jordan. So we might have lost one musical icon. We gained one back. So there is that.
That's great. Wasn't Trump supposed to let him out a couple months ago?
I can't confirm nor deny that. I don't know what's going on anymore in the world. But I know, you know what? Sam Summers can probably have that for us come Thursday. You know, I know Sam is just fired up with a lot of good takes, and he can probably research that for us as well. But Jordan, let's go to another musical figure that we addressed in last week's episode, Meek Mill.
Oh, yeah.
Which we told everybody about his questionable and offensive lyrics regarding Kobe Bryant. Well,
they were questionable.
Kobe Bryant's wife, Vanessa Bryant, has spoke out about the lyrics Meek Mill released, saying, "I find this line to be extremely insensitive and disrespectful, period. I am not familiar with any of your music." Jordan, you weren't familiar with any of his last week either, so that makes two of you now. But I believe you can do better than this. If you are a fan, fine. There's a better way to show your admiration for my husband. This lacks respect and tact.
Yeah, this is what I have to say to that. We're all going to die at some point, so it is what it is. Wasn't that bad of a line. I mean, hey, if I wasn't here anymore and somebody put me in their song, I wouldn't be that upset about it. She shouldn't be that upset about it. She probably should definitely be that upset about it. She should 100% be. She definitely shouldn't be okay with it.
She put that pretty nicely, in my opinion. I mean, I've never been in that situation. I hope I never find myself in that situation.
But if you do, you just don't say anything. That's the best. The best thing is to not say anything.
That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. Not to make emotional responses.
No. Over to college football now, Jordan, where a lot of college football fans are still buzzing at the fact that EA Sports has announced that college football will be making a return to gaming consoles, what it looks like in the year 2022. Jordan, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish will not participate in the video game revival until the NIL rules are finalized regarding player likeness and imaging being compensated. How do you feel about Notre Dame doing this?
It's great. It's the first time I don't have to watch them get blown out in big games. I mean, granted, it'll be in a video game that I won't have to watch them get blown out in big games in like a dynasty, but I'm okay with it. It's pretty pretentious. It's extremely pretentious to me. That's not why they're doing it, but it is what it is. I don't really care. I don't play as Notre Dame. They're not even in a fucking conference. So like, like they're not even part of anything. Like they're just kind of this like mystical creature, like out in the like the, you know, leprechaun in the hood. You know.
Well, I agree with you. We'll stay with college football once again, Jordan.
Okay.
Only this time we'll talk about spring college football. That's right, Jackson State, led by first-year head coach, primetime Deion Sanders.
Woo, baby. Come on.
Started their season off with a 53-0 win. Real good debut, I'd say so, for primetime, Jordan. What do you think?
I love Deion Sanders. Might be the best player of all time. If you know of him, but you've never watched like any of the games, watched film of it, go on YouTube. He's unbelievable. Might be the best ever. We'll find out. Jury's still out, Mitch, if he's going to be a good college coach. I mean, be a great college coach. I think he'll be a good one. At that level, you'll be able to influence enough. He's going to do well in recruiting too. And I think this is good. Hopefully this opens it up for more elite athletes who want to coach, because there's not always a door open, right? Mm-hmm. Usually it's for people who've really done it for the last 20, 30. I mean, you have to have done it basically since you could have had a profession. It's like a selective club. So hopefully this opens the door up more for coaches.
I agree. And we'll see. We will see.
Yep.
Jordan, now we'll talk about somebody that was a star in college football, one of the worst professionals I've ever seen. That's Johnny Manziel, where he's in this indoor 50-yard league, fan-controlled football league. Well, his team lost again, 0-2, Jordan. There are some people out there who think that Johnny Manziel is trying to make an NFL comeback. I think that's hysterical that they're already making jokes this early. What does it say about Johnny Manziel, the fact that he can't even win in arena football?
Okay, so I actually watched his first game. I actually watched the whole first game. He's there just to have fun. He's there to drink beer, have a good time, meet some new people, make a little money. He's not there to make an NFL comeback. This guy's not serious. He understands that like the timeline he had is gone. He's gone. There is no chance left. I think he's just having a good time. I'm having a good time watching. And he plays for is it the Zappers?
Zappers, yes. He plays for the Zappers.
Yeah.
That's
Might
a
have
nice
to get a Zappers jersey, really. I have a Johnny Manziel jersey somewhere up here. Never going to wear it again, but it's here.
You probably should never wear something like that again. Jordan, we'll stay in college, but switch sports now.
Okay.
Division I college baseball had their first pitch this past weekend after their season was ended last year due to COVID. But, Jordan, Florida Atlantic University freshman hit 2 grand slams in his first 2 collegiate at-bats. But, Jordan, the kicker, it was in the same inning versus the University of Central Florida in the first game of the year. So imagine your first 2 at-bats, you hit 2 grand slams in the same inning. 2 for 2, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, Jordan. Florida Atlantic obviously did go on to win that game. He finished 2 for 5, though. What does that say? I mean, honestly, if you want to be the greatest of all time, you probably had to hit another one, in my opinion. Start out 3 for 3.
The best debut ever for any team ever, whether it's minor league, little league. I don't even know how that's possible. The other team must have been horrendous had the fact that he got back to the plate twice in the same inning. With
the bases loaded both times.
That's unbelievable.
Just
what are the odds of that?
Like, how bad are you? Like,
bad.
To let it happen. Come on.
Not good.
Yeah. And lastly, Jordan, we'll stick with baseball, but we'll stay in the state of Ohio now.
Okay.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine said that the Indians and Cincinnati Reds could open the season with a 30% capacity. Jordan, that would mean the Indians can have 10,500 fans, which means it'll look like just a regular game at Progressive Field.
Yeah, it will. I can't. Me and D, my girl, were talking about that last night. Obviously, you know her. People in the ball pit might not know her yet. She was helping out with the show today, blowing up this shark. But I don't even know what the hell we're talking about. I was going to connect this, Mitch. What are we talking about?
Mike DeWine, assuming that there's 10,500 people that would even want to go watch the Cleveland Indians.
Oh, I can't wait to go to a game. I cannot wait to go to a game. Absolutely cannot wait to go to a game. It's going to be a great time. Good time.
I agree. Actually, I do have one more, Jordan. A very controversial thing that happened in baseball. And that was Seattle Mariners executive Kevin Mather, who wasn't caught on a hot mic, Jordan. He literally was part of a 45-minute interview where he answered things with racist comments and how he manipulates the players in the AAA and minor leagues to get more use out of their contract and save more money, Jordan. Kevin Mathers has since resigned. But what the hell is this? Like, what? Like, bro, like, if you're, first off, no, whatever he said was not right. I am not agreeing with that. I want that out there right now. But first off, what the hell does he say behind closed doors then if he openly said this to a bunch of reporters at a Rotary Club or whatever he was at? And 2, what do you think players in the organization feel like walking past him from different countries of different skin color? Man, you just worked for that man for how many years now? And you just found out he's just a major piece of shit?
Yeah, it's a really weird scenario. You think you know somebody, and then they say 88 racist comments in 45 minutes, and you figure out, I don't know this guy at all. Yeah, it's a hell of a way to get fired. Seems pretty justified.
Yeah. Everyone usually tunes in to see who has bigger balls. And this man, he was in the running today. But we have some good contestants at the end of the show for who has bigger balls. So,
great.
Honorable mention for Kevin Mather. And I'm happy he's out of baseball. We'll touch on why baseball just needs a whole makeover in another show.
Rehaul. Yeah.
It needs to happen sooner than later. But, Jordan, those are my afternoon headlines.
Wow. Those are pretty solid. Pretty solid. Do you want to say one I think you missed? Serena lost over the weekend.
Oh, she did lose. Wait, actually, since you said that, we know she lost to Naomi. Did you see her post-game press conference? Where she literally asked the woman she beat, which is Jennifer, when she was talking to reporters, and she looked back and said, "Do you like to be called Jenny or Jennifer?" And she literally tells Naomi, I like to be called Jenny. And she turns back around and goes, and Jennifer, like what?
That's a hell of
With all disrespect.
Typically you shouldn't be able to do things like that in Me Like You More, but I definitely I feel like my affinity's grown for twofold. And did you see the weird post game of her like taking all these weird like selfie photos? And they were playing them on TV. It was really weird. It was really weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that at all, but it was her like basically she was making out with the trophy by herself. Like it was like a weird thing with this like photo shoot, but she was doing the photo shoot by herself. So it was I don't know it was weird that maybe it's not weird that she did it. Maybe it's weird that they covered it. Like the fact that people said, "Hey, you see that girl over there? She's making up with that trophy. Let's go over there." Like it was weird. It was a really weird thing. And it was really awkward because I was watching it. Nobody was saying anything. One of those scenarios where you're watching something unfold that is is not okay at all, and no one's saying anything. Yeah. I don't.
And when you win, you can do whatever you want, I guess. I mean,
yeah. Well, you know who can't do whatever they want right now, Mitch, because they did not win over the weekend? The Ohio State Buckeyes. Our Ohio State Buckeyes are still ranked number 4 in the AP after losing last week when they were number 4 in the AP. What does that tell you about the Ohio State men's basketball team? They're a really good team. Over the weekend, they lost to Juwan Howard and his newly formed Michigan Wolverines. Guys, he has not been at Michigan that long at all. He's done an incredible job. It's the best thing the Fab Five's done since calling a timeout with no timeouts available. Mitch, what do you think? What did you think about the game? Because it was arguably the game of the year between Michigan and Ohio State. What were your takeaways?
Jordan, I don't think it's arguably. That was the game of the year. And if you don't think it was the game of the year, you obviously, 1, didn't watch, and 2, you're either blind or don't have eyeballs. Like, what's his face from Oklahoma that might lose his eye from that fight.
Hell of a scenario to have no eyeballs.
So, well, I mean, honestly, if you have no eyeballs, what you did was your name was Spencer Jones. You tried to fight somebody in the bathroom. But we already touched on that. So let's just move on. It was the game of the year, Jordan.
Yep.
And to be honest, it says a lot about Ohio State staying at 4 after the loss, because it just tells you that all the voters out there really respect Michigan and Ohio State. Had Ohio State beat Michigan, I think they would have just flip-flopped. There's no way Michigan would have fallen. And then Illinois is right there. So I think your top 3 number 1 seeds are set. I think it is Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan. And then I honestly think, barring any collapse, your number 4 seed is going to be the winner of Ohio State and Illinois, which takes place in a couple Saturdays in Columbus. But for the game itself, Jordan, look, Michigan really got the help they needed in the first half when they hit 10 of 13 from downtown. Not something they do a whole lot. And they were aided by Justice Suing having his worst game of the season. 6 points. Justin Arns didn't score. The Ohio State's, lights out 3-point shooter, has one of the best 3-point percentages in the country. Mm-hmm. Washington dropped 30, but Suing, I don't know if you watched the game or if you were listening on the radio, but tried a behind the back pass on a double screen from Young and Liddell, and nobody was home. That led to an easy fast break transition bucket by the Wolverines. And then he just had another stupid foul. So going from a 2-3 point game into a 3 possession game, it really killed all the momentum there was. But given those circumstances, and you could hear from the players at Ohio State after the game, they know they're going to see Michigan again, whether that's in the Big Ten championship or, Jordan, we literally had a preview of what a Final Four game could have looked like, because that felt like a Final Four game, and it was amazing. Michigan's a damn good basketball team, but myself am not worried about them. I think that Ohio State and Michigan are extremely even across the board when it comes to everything. Coaching, post presence. Now Michigan does have the height advantage, but Ohio State guards can play a little bit better than what they did, but I'm not shocked at what happened. Ohio State, I do believe, needed to lose. Now, I'd much rather would have not lost to Michigan, but you have to let little brother win every once in a while. It's the first time winning in Columbus in over 7 years. I mean, it's good for a basketball school like them. I guess they're a basketball school because they're not a football school.
Clearly not.
Yeah, so I want to get your thoughts, because now Ohio State has fallen down to 3rd in the Big Ten standings behind Illinois. But like I said, Ohio State still plays Iowa this upcoming Sunday and Illinois once again. So what did you take away from Sunday's game? Yeah,
my takeaway is that Chris Holtmann is the real deal. I mean, Thad Matta was an incredible recruiter, and just an absolutely incredible recruiter for Ohio State. And we can't thank him enough for that. But in terms of the X's and O's, it seemed like he really struggled after he got the talent, wasn't sure what to do with it. Love Chris Holtmann. I'm in a unique scenario, Mitch, where I'm down in Columbus. So when I hop in my car and I turn on the radio, one of the stations always has some of the coaches getting interviewed with their weekly interviews, and sometimes I get to catch him. Mm-hmm. And he just, not only does he say all the right things, but he seems just incredibly easy to understand. He doesn't overcomplicate anything. All his guys seem like they have they're just having so much fun playing for him. When you know this, Mitch, you've played on some really, really great teams. When you're having fun as a bunch playing, man, you're hard to beat. You're really hard to beat. I love their energy. What it told me is that Ohio State basketball is back. Also, what it told me is that Michigan basketball is back. Not that I didn't know that by now, but I've watched Michigan play 4 or 5 times this year. And, I mean, they're incredible to watch. And even with no fans, they're fun. But didn't it seem like there were fans at the game Saturday?
It did.
It seemed like there was some real intensity on the court. And I know it's a rivalry game, and I get that.
But Jordan, we've seen it this year, though, with no fans. Some of the rivalry games have lost the fire on the court, and it just haven't been as engaging. So I already know what you're trying to say here. And it was like there were fans there because you could tell both teams wanted it as bad as the other. And it came down to who was going to have less mistakes. And that's why Michigan prevailed.
It's like you're watching some of these rivalry games, and you want to reach to the TV and grab somebody by the neck. Hey, let you know you're playing in a rivalry game today. Just didn't know if you knew, because it doesn't look like you knew that you're playing in a rivalry game. Everybody on the Michigan and Ohio State, they knew they were in a battle, and they played like it. And I think that was the perfect game, Mitch, because I think that game is getting everybody a little more excited about March Madness. I just talked to you about this other day about how for the first time ever, I'm going to get a bracket put up on my wall. I'm going to order one of those big laminate brackets. I'm excited about it. And I know you are, and there's some really big games left even before the Big Ten championship and these conference championships. So we're going to keep an eye on it because we do cover balls. If you've listened to us thus far and you haven't subscribed or liked this podcast, there's a lot of people out there, Mitch, a lot of people out there who don't like ice cream and who are not subscribed to us on YouTube, Spotify, or iTunes. So if you haven't liked or subscribed to us, please do that. Mitch, with that being said, a lot of stuff going on in the NBA. We're going to turn angles again. A lot of stuff. And when we were really picking out what to talk about, we really weren't sure, because really you could talk about every team. We could talk about how, hey, the Lakers really are beat up right now. Dennis Schroeder's out. Should LeBron play any more minutes than he's playing right now? Anthony Davis. Is his injury worse than it is? Brooklyn's rolling. The Suns are rolling. Joel Embiid's putting up 50-point nights. A lot to talk about.
The Wizards are rolling.
The Wizards are finally rolling with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, because Russell Westbrook decided to wake up today and play basketball. The first thing I wanted to touch was the Phoenix Suns. When we talked before the season and we did an episode, we did a NBA episode, exclusive episode. We talked about, can Chris Paul elevate Devin Booker's play, and not only can he elevate Devin Booker's play, but can he get the Suns playing above they were playing in the bubble? Not only has he done that, it's gone above that, in my opinion. But before I elaborate, Mitch, is this Chris Paul's best masterpiece yet? I mean, he's taken the Hornets to the playoffs. He's taken the Clippers to the playoffs, and we see how good Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's taken the Russell Westbrook-less OKC Thunder to the playoffs by himself, almost winning a playoff series. And the Rockets. Mitch, is this his best masterpiece yet?
Yes, it is. And there's no question about it. Listen, you could make I think if you're making an argument, it would have to be in New Orleans, where they were known as the Hornets and now known as the Pelicans, because Chris Paul was a star, but he wasn't what he eventually became. And the Hornets were just, a team that surrounded him with good talent. No superstars, really. I mean, they had Peja Stojakovic, Emeka Okafor, David West. Peja Stojakovic was a dog.
Oh, man, you missed. They had Mike Bibby.
Oh, they had him. Oh my gosh, that Hornets team was
That
fun,
team,
man. Listen, the NBA back in like 2005 to 2009. Oh man, those were the days. But back to the question at hand. This is Chris Paul's greatest masterpiece because last year you saw him take a team that was written off like, oh, the Thunder might buy Chris Paul out because they don't care about winning. And he took him to the playoffs and pushed the Rockets to game 7 in the first round. Okay.
Yeah.
There's people out there who think the Rockets could have beat the Warriors, I believe, in 2017 if Chris Paul doesn't hurt his hamstring in game 6 and then miss game 7. And now it looks like that's the case because it looks like Chris Paul really was the reason the Rockets were so good. I know I'm not taking away from James Harden, but I think a lot of people have downplayed how Chris Paul was in Houston. And now you are seeing it in Phoenix. He has made Devin Booker better, DeAndre Ayton better. Monty Williams was a good head coach. And now he just looks even better because Chris Paul has went down there with his veteran leadership, his point guard skills, and he is just flourishing in Phoenix. And it's awesome to see they're 4th in the West right now, 20-10. I don't know if anybody saw them like starting like this right now. I expected them to be good based on how they finished in the bubble. But Jordan, this says a lot about what people think about Blake Griffin, what people think about DeAndre Jordan, what people think about, James Harden as a teammate when it's just one other guy in him. Chris Paul, who a lot of people thought was getting near the end of his career, doesn't look like he is near the end of his career right now.
No, and it's kind of wild, right? Because we're watching all these. I mean, Dwayne Wade was really one of the first ones to go where he got banged up and he was out quick. Carmelo's still around. We're watching Chris Paul. I mean, Chris Paul really hasn't had a hiccup. And by the way, I think that was in game 5. I'm almost positive that because they were up 3-1. So that happened in game 5, I'm pretty sure, with Chris Paul's hamstring. And they had 3 games. Yeah, because they were up 3-1. So they had 3 games to close that out. That's how that's how well that team played. That's unbelievable to me that Daryl Morey got that team to that level. You know what I mean? And just to think that if they win one more game, they're most likely winning the finals. And Chris Paul could have finally erased that narrative of how great really am I? Because we always question the ones who haven't got a title. There's only a couple we don't question about their greatness. We never question Charles Barkley. Nobody says, he doesn't have a ring. We love Charles. Like, there's a lot of people like that. And I think Chris Paul, I hope he gets a title, Mitch, because I think his legacy might be one where we just look back on. He was like, well, he's a great point guard, but, he has no title. When I look at Chris Paul, I think he's one of the better point guards of all time. And it's unbelievable to me the lack of success he's had. And I don't think it's his fault. And I don't give people excuses much, but I don't know how much it's his fault that his teams have struggled.
I don't think it is his fault. You have to remember what coach just got fired last year for an epic meltdown. That was Doc Rivers, who was also his coach. It's just a lot of different variables, Jordan. But for those that weren't giving Chris Paul the respect he deserves, it's time. That's all there is to it. He's really, I don't want to say rejuvenated his career, but he's really starting to, I think
he has, Mitch. I think that's
is that the right word? Is that the right word?
He has rejuvenated his career. I think it's fair to say that a guy that we were beginning to forget about, we don't forget about at all anymore. Like, he's right back in the forefront of our minds. Like, he's one of the first people we think about when we're talking about like top tier NBA talent and what's going to happen in the playoffs. I think he has, Mitch. I think that's more than fair to say. I think you're 100% right.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how the Suns finish out the season. I was talking with Brandon, friend of the show.
Yeah.
And we were talking about who should be winning MVP right now? Who should be the leading guy for MVP? Do you consider Bradley Beal because he leads the league in scoring? I said no. And Luka Doncic obviously can't be in it because his team isn't even in the playoffs right now. And we were going through, and then it hit me. Chris Paul should absolutely be in the top 5, top 6 of names you mentioned when you're talking about
MVP.
Who should win MVP this year?
Yeah.
He has to be.
He could have been last year, Mitch. That's how good he was. I was arguing last year with people about how good Chris Paul was playing, and everybody talked to me. Everybody said, and everybody, even on TV, were like, well, OKC has this 3-headed monster down there. I'm like, 3-headed monster? What the hell are you talking about? 3-headed monster. You mean to tell me that Russell Westbrook got traded out of OKC and they had a 3-headed monster there? No, they didn't. They had a couple guys there, and I understand that they had different players after the trade. But everywhere he's gone, he's done this. I mean, it was kind of confusing in LA with the Clippers just because, Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan can jump over, a large adult. And so
they're good for it.
I know, and we really fell into that hype. They did have like a prime JJ Redick who averaged like 18 or 19 points like for his Clipper career. So I mean, he had a good team. But one thing that you said that was really important that I'm going to double back on before I ask you this next question is you said who just got fired? Doc Rivers. Well, guess who else got fired? Who was a coach for Chris Paul? Mike D'Antoni. I mean, he was basically fired, right? So he hasn't really had a top-tier coach yet. That might be his biggest, that might be his Achilles heel for his entire legacy, is not having the right pieces around him. Mitch, going through the standings here, the Sixers, God, that hurts to say, the Sixers are leading the East right now. With 20 wins and 11 losses, only a half game back are the Brooklyn Nets. I think that if we brought everybody in the ball pit, like in a circle in person, everybody we know, I think I don't know if there's a person out there, Mitch, that would pick anybody out the East or the field versus the Nets. Are you one of those people, or do you think the Nets are for real?
I've said it. I think the Nets are for real, and I think they have to be the favorite coming out of the East, Jordan, but I'm not ready to sit here and tell you that they're going to. Listen, the Sixers are doing something a lot of people didn't expect them to do, and that's be a threat in the East right now. At 20 and 11, I don't think you or I or many people in the ball pit saw this coming. And I think it really is a testament to Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and what they're buying into. But, Jordan, the Nets have to be the team to beat. They're on a roll right now, and it's without Kevin Durant. They've won 6 in a row. They just went on a brutal road trip out west and beat the best teams in the West. And I've said it before, I don't think they're winning the finals strictly because they don't play defense. And they're thriving right now because I think Kevin Durant's not playing. And that's not a knock on Kevin Durant. I think it's more of a knock on when he comes back. Kyrie Irving refuses to be third fiddle to Kevin Durant and James Harden. So I think they're the favorites of the East. I mean, if they have to be, but I'm still not picking them yet to win the NBA Finals. And by the way, they're 6-0 without Kevin Durant. So can we please get this Kevin Durant for MVP talk out of here? Can we do it?
I don't think it's Kevin Durant for MVP. I mean, the question is it James Harden for MVP? James Harden, since he's joined the Brooklyn Nets, he's leading the NBA in assists. If the Nets want to have any success, I honest to God think he might be the most important piece because to keep Kyrie happy, that means that James Harden's going to have to take a backseat. James Harden can score 25 points with his eyes closed, and that's what he's doing right now. The question is Kyrie going to continue to take this many shots when KD comes back? Because he shouldn't. But will he? Where does KD fit in when he comes back? They're definitely the best team in the East. This is just a really, I cannot believe that the Nets, with throwing all this together, just this weird ass stew, just taking everything in your cupboards and throwing it in a big ass pot, like they did this in 10 minutes, and all of a sudden they're the best team in the East. And it's weird because if you look at the teams in the East versus the teams in the West, there is the parity in the East. Like the Miami Heat, they're playing terrible. They're playing horrendous, and they're on a 3-game winning streak. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and they're a game and a half behind the 4 seed, and they're the 10th best team in the East. The good thing about that is Brooklyn, if they need to, they can rest some of their starters.
Oh, yeah.
If James ever gets nicked up, they can rest him. Kyrie, if he wants to go, he might be Jewish now. If the Sabbath is coming up, Kyrie can take off. If Kevin Durant needs to take off, he can. You know what I mean? They have that luxury right now. I mean, because they're only going to be like KD and Kyrie is better than James and Kyrie. KD and Harden is better than the other. You know what I mean? Like the best.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
The best is only yet to come. And I understand that they're not going to shoot as well as they're shooting from 3 in some games. But I was trying to talk myself out of this when I was driving earlier. I don't know how I look at this team in how they're not the favorites. And I understand that I've been saying the Lakers for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I still think that they're probably the most complete team once they get healthy. Mm-hmm. But I think I really underestimated, and I know the game's changing, but I really underestimated the how like a great offensive team, like what that looks like. Because I've never really seen this before. We've never really seen it before. And so I was kind of confused because they're a terrible defensive team. But in this stretch, I will say I think they're 21st in defense, total defense. And if they're 21st in total defense throughout the playoffs, I don't care who they play. That's good enough because they're probably going to put up 130 points. Definitely the best team in the East right now. I don't know if I'm going to anoint them the best team yet. I still think the Lakers are, maybe. And when I say maybe, I think the Lakers are definitely the best team by a slight margin. So maybe not definitely, but it's close. Mitch, anything else going on in the East? Is there a dark horse team that you see? Maybe the Charlotte Hornets with LaMelo Ball. Or maybe it's the Pacers, who aren't really a dark horse team. I think they're the fourth or fifth best team in the East right now.
Fourth seed in the East. Like nobody talks about them.
Like
nobody.
Nobody talks about them at all. Is there any team that isn't where they are right now that could really disrupt the East playoffs that no one's planning on them being there? Is there any team that can disrupt the playoffs at all in the East?
Two teams, Jordan.
Okay.
And one is Miami Heat, because I think Miami Heat have been decimated by injuries. They're starting to play better now. They're starting to get healthy. We saw them go to LA and beat the Lakers, who weren't at full strength, but I mean, it still says a lot. The Heat right now are what? They are a half game out of the 8 seed. So I think they'll be in there. But Jordan, besides the Indiana Pacers, which it's just mind-boggling that they're sitting at 4, the New York Knicks are the 7th seed. Nobody is talking about the New York. They're first off, Tom Thibodeau is trying to reunite his old Chicago Bulls team by getting Derrick Rose, and they have Taj Gibson. I'm still waiting on him to go get Joakim Noah and call up Kirk Heinrich out of retirement. But listen,
Kirk Heinrich, wow.
The New York Knicks are averaging 103 points a game and are giving up 103 points a game. They have bought, for the first time, it looks like a team in New York has bought into a head coach there. Mm-hmm. And Julius Randle has burst onto the scene this year. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to be a threat to anybody, but it's a team that I did not expect whatsoever to be in contention for the playoffs. When you talked about teams that weren't going to be in the playoffs, I was thinking them, the Detroit Pistons, the Cavs, the Hawks, the Wizards. And here are the Knicks at 7, 15, and 16. And really, they're one game away from being the 4th seed. So we have to wait to see if they make any additions at the trade deadline. Do they go after an Andre Drummond from the Cavs? Do they go after, Hassan Whiteside has been rumored to be bought out? What do the Knicks do? Because they're a team that surprised me and a team that I think could potentially move up in the standings and make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they are going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to do anything because their best player is who? Say his name again. Julius Randle. If Julius Randle is your best player, Julius Randle's he'd be a really good 3 for a championship team. Like, that's his caliber of guy. Julius Randle is good, but that's about where that conversation ends. Tom Thibodeau has done a tremendous job. Mm-hmm. Tremendous job. And maybe the Knicks are arguably one of the worst organizations, like top to bottom, in all of professional sports. I mean, you're talking about drama, talking about like some of your best, like one of your, Charles Oakley was literally dragged out of Madison Square Garden. That's where they're at. You know what I mean? I was going to try to make it sound nice, but it's crazy. It's crazy up there. I think this is the best it's going to get. You can't do any, we know this, Mitch. You can't do anything in this league without a star. Can't do anything in this league without a second star. The Knicks will make the playoffs. I can't believe that they're this good. It's kind of crazy. Right. RJ Barrett is good, but they don't have. That's about all they got. It's kind of wild. He might be coach of the year right now. I don't know who else could be up for coach of the year. It has to be him. Right?
The argument's there. The argument is absolutely there between him and I don't even know who the head coach in Indiana is, which he'd be another one that has to be up there. But the argument's there for Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, Well, I mean, we're gonna see. We'll see. Mitch, the last thing I wanted to get into basketball wise, and it's not something that I don't know if I want to talk about it because I know how upset you are about it, and I just like I've seen you cry in private before, but I just don't want you to do it in public. Mitch, what I want to get into is I want to get into the Cavs, if that's okay with you. I know the Cavs have been on a historically bad losing streak. Out of the last 10 games, they are 0-10. Now, for you math nerds out there, 0-10 is not great. You would rather be 1-9 or anything but 0-10. Mitch, you called this literally like 9 episodes ago before they even went on the losing streak. I asked you to grab what part of the tape was it. Let me put it up, but we couldn't find it because obviously, we've put so many episodes out by now. But Mitch, you called it. What were you seeing like 2 or 3 weeks ago that nobody else was seeing? Because the Cavs, 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Cavs were really good.
Yeah. What I saw was what I've seen the past 2 years and what I saw the 4 years when LeBron was gone. The Cavs always play a team very tough and have a nail-biter game, and then after that, they absolutely crumble. And that game, Jordan, had to have been the Los Angeles Lakers game where they lost by 7. Sure, the next game they beat the Pistons, but then they lost the Knicks by 21. They lost the Timberwolves, who are the worst team in the NBA, then proceeded to beat them the next night by 2 points. But Jordan, then the schedule got tough. And I don't want to hear people say, oh, the schedule's tough, so they're losing. Okay, lose. Don't get beat in 7 straight games by an average margin of 21 plus points. Okay? There's plenty of teams in the NBA who are lost a lot of games. They're at least losing by a respectable margin. I mean, I don't know. This team isn't good. This team has not been constructed properly. Kobe Altman has screwed this team over once we acquired Jared Allen. And that's nothing against Jared Allen. I love Jared Allen. But why are we acquiring another 7-foot center when you already have 3 others on the roster? What are we doing here? We have 4 guys in a lineup at once that are 22 years old or younger. Okay, it makes no sense what we're doing. We've drafted 2 guards in back-to-back drafts. We drafted Isaac Okoro, who he gets a pass right now because of all the circumstances with COVID and guys coming in. But why the hell is Jetty Osman on the court? He sucked. There's no other way to put it. I would rather play 5-on-4 than have to watch that garbage-ass player shoot another brick. I mean, if anything, go build houses for homeless people in Cleveland. That's all you're good for at this rate. He is so bad, and he's here till 2024, Jordan. Till 2024. You know what? LeBron James duped the Cavs into giving him an extension. LeBron James told everybody how great Jetty Osman was, how great of a teammate he was. And he bolts to LA, and the Cavs go, oh, LeBron said Jetty's good. So they signed him to an extension, and oh my God, he is one of the worst players in the NBA this year. Let's just put it how it is. I mean, the other night I started a thread on Twitter, at Mitchell Balla is my Twitter handle, and I'd love for you to go add to it if you're out there in the ball pit listening, of things I would trade Jetty Osman for. And Jordan, I don't know if we could get a successful coach's challenge for Jetty Osman at this rate. That's how bad he is. There are some people who are throwing out some great trades out there. Shane Kelly said 2 body armors. That's great. It would keep 2 of your players hydrated at least. Someone said an old-fashioned pencil sharpener. To be honest, I think we'd have to throw draft picks into that because that's how bad Jetty Osman is. The league might veto it because of how unfair it is. I mean, listen, I can't wait for Sam Summers to join us on Thursday because I know he is furious with this team. I'm right now just trying to figure out how long before Kobe Altman's fired. Are we going to fire another head coach, just within a year? And who's getting moved between Sexton and Garland? Because one of them's got to get moved. It's that obvious. And at this point, just lose out. I am going to start watching the Cavs games for entertainment purposes if I need to laugh, because I watched them get called for a 5-second inbound violation in the 3rd quarter of a game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, you're professionals. You can't inbound the ball. You guys are a joke. You're the laughing stock of the NBA. The only reason you're not worse is because the Timberwolves are, I don't know. The Timberwolves are playing a different sport apparently. And the Detroit Pistons they suck too. They suck too. Cavs have lost 13 straight against the spread. So if you're watching this right now, we're going to have a new installment next week, which, Jake Fearley, who listens to us, already knows about. My goodness. Bet everything in your life against the Cavs. 7-point dogs of the Hawks tonight in Cleveland. Pfft. Dad, I saw you were out watching on Facebook. Put the mortgage up tonight. My goodness. Put everything, all yours. Guys, you thought, getting in on the AMC and GameStop stock was good. Start betting everything you have against the Cavaliers because this is embarrassing.
Well, and I think this brings me to, one of our final points for our show, Mitch. I think the Cavs really need to consider bringing back Paul Silas as their head coach. Clearly winning is not something they want to do. So just bring back one of your coaches who's lost 1 million games as a Cavalier already. Why? Let's stop doing this and ruining coaches' careers. Let's just bring back and reuse and recycle old coaches if this is how we're going to play. It's bad. It's not good. I wear this Mark Price shirt, though, in complete pride because this is when the Cavs used to be good, Mitch.
That's also the last time they made the playoffs without a guy named LeBron James.
Hold on. I will say I did say used to be good. I just completely disrespected LeBron James there. Sorry, Mr. LeBron. But, the Cavs at some point will turn the corner, Mitch. And it brings me to the final corner we need to turn to, which is my favorite corner, if that's okay with you.
But before we do that, let's go on record right now. Let's do it right now.
Record?
Who gets fired first? Kobe Altman or JB Bickerstaff?
Sorry, I was grabbing my beach ball.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Everybody, all of the above. Nothing's going right. You know what I mean? Like you have to. The Cavs have lost 10 straight games, and they're losing by football scores. Okay, they're losing by football scores. Okay, they're getting outscored some halves this year, like by 40. Okay, by 40. All right, that's not going to get the job done. Who's going to get fired? I don't know.
All right, then who do we trade? Who do we move on from first? Because I think Sam Summers and I are in agreement that this Sexton Garland thing isn't going to work. I don't know if the Cavs thought they could recreate what's going on in Portland with Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum, but no, that's not the case. So who do we move then? Sexton or Garland?
I think you move Garland, but before we get into this last segment, let me say this because I didn't really say this. You and I have addressed this together. The Cavs have no direction or identity. They are going through the woods with no compass.
Helen Keller's leading the pack.
Exactly. Clearly, they don't care what destination they end up at, because they're clearly being negligent in how they're running this team. Nothing makes sense. Half the team is 7'6" and taller. The other half is, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. You've brought up these points a ton of times. It doesn't seem like there really is any plan or direction for the Cleveland Cavaliers right now, which is why I'm not.
Like they care.
No, they 100% don't care. You don't care and make some of these decisions. Okay, you don't care. And it's clear at this point that they don't. And I guess we're just gonna see how this plays out. Maybe Jeff Bezos. Maybe you should stop looking at the Washington Football Club, and maybe you should be looking in Cleveland.
Yeah,
come on.
He's probably got some cool inventions at Amazon too that could make our players better. Maybe put a robot on the court too. Maybe. Listen, literally at this point, anything's better than Jetty Osman or Dotson, by the way, who the other night played 15 minutes, didn't have a point, assist, or rebound, and a turnover, and felt like, what? Just at this rate, just trot out the J Friends Supersonics. What the coach we had in the Supersonics was better. The players we had in the Supersonics were better.
We were pretty good.
We were good. Today was trash day. I really hope that the trash people picked up Chetty Osman.
I agree. I hope they did too. Mitch, are we ready for this?
Yes, we need it. We need to change the mood right now.
Guys, this is our last segment. If you haven't liked or subscribed to us on YouTube, iTunes, wherever you're listening to, we appreciate you guys in the ball pit out there. Let's get to our last segment.
Who has bigger balls?
Mitch, who has bigger balls?
Jordan, is it J. Seth Owens? Which, by the way, to everybody in the ball pit, if you haven't seen this yet, you must be under a rock. But Owens was the kid that attended Cam Newton's football camp this past weekend and was caught on video disrespecting the former NFL MVP, the Heisman Trophy winner, the national champion, and it went viral of the disrespect he was throwing at Cam Newton for being a free agent, calling him a bum, saying he would be poor, Jordan. And Cam Newton didn't kick him out of the camp. So does he have bigger balls? Or, Jordan, I'll let you stick to your candidate that we had established before the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be Draymond Green, who up 2 points. The Golden State Warriors were up 2 points in the remaining seconds of a game a couple days ago. What Draymond Green did was what Draymond Green does, and that's not only get a technical, but a double technical, get thrown out of the game, give the other team 2 shots and the ball. Well, no, I don't think it was 2 shots. It was just a ball because they ended up hitting a 3. And they lost by a point.
Scary Terry.
They lost by a point by Terry Rozier, who has had a monster game. And I will throw it out to my buddy David out there, who had Terry Rozier on his DraftKings lineup as his captain. So that was a huge move on your part, Mitch. I think I'm going to go with you on this. I think Cam Newton. I think that situation definitely has bigger balls, and I'm going to say this. Cam Newton is not the same Cam Newton that we saw 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago. This is the guy who has constantly evolved. Evolved. Cam Newton is what we want future Jameis Winston to look like. Like, we don't want to have questions with you anymore. We don't want you to make any ridiculous comments. We want you to be an adult. Be the adult in the room. You know, not talk shit about your teammates on TV. We don't want you to do those things. Cam Newton doesn't do any of those things anymore. He doesn't kick this kid out, which takes more balls, is respectful to the situation. And honestly, if Cam Newton kicked this kid out, he would have looked like a real bitch, and he didn't. He stayed put. He just said, hey, this kid's a 7th grader. He's a little kid. He doesn't know anything. I forgot more than this kid already knows, and he let him in the camp. Love Cam Newton.
Not only that. The kid called him a bum and said he was going to be poor because he doesn't have a team. I don't know exactly for this instance, but Jordan, usually if you go to those camps, it costs money. And if it was Cam Newton's camp, the kid literally paid money to go to the camp, which he then called Cam Newton poor. So like you literally gave the man money and then we're saying like, so you just, I mean, Owens, it's the Owens kid. He came out and issued a public apology. Like, dude, like his own coaches of the football team he plays for, whatever. I don't even know how old he is because I just don't want to give him that much credit or clout. We're already giving him more than he needs. But guess what? He had some big balls for doing that.
And
that's all there is to it.
And he happened to pick on the one professional sports athlete who is he's kind of an untouchable character right now because everybody's rooting for him. He's on the Patriots. He's doing these interviews that no one else is doing in putting himself really out there, being extremely vulnerable, coming out and telling Bill Belichick, call it. What did he say? What were his exact words? I think he said Bill Belichick was one of the funnest guys to be around, which is kind of wild. But it seems like he's turned the corner. I think he wins who has the biggest balls today. I think it's 100%. I think it's pretty clear. Hey guys, this was episode 29 of Cover Your Balls. I'm Jordan McKelley.
I'm Mitch Balla.
And thanks for hanging out with us. This was fun. Make sure you like and subscribe this video, this podcast on iTunes, Spotify. We love you guys. Let's be honest here. Welcome to the ball pit.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in the ball pit Thursday. We'll see you Thursday in the ball pit. And if your name's Jetty Osman, get the hell out.
Get out of here.